Hi everyone, this is Kavita, Certified Empowerment Coach and Hypnotherapist, and you are listening to the Enlightened Heart podcast, where we explore topics that empower HSPs and empaths to go from surviving to thriving in the world. I use my years of coaching, my personal experience, and my training to provide deep insights and implementable strategies to help you thrive. Hello, Enlightened Hearts. This is Kavita coming to you with a topic that I am hearing so much lately, especially with all the uncertainty and the things that are happening around us. People have been coming and are really not sure if they should stop doing something or leave something. So they are coming and deciding, is it time to quit? Or am I at the tipping point where this is actually going to work in my favor and where I'm actually going to accomplish some of my goals? So I'm going to dive deep into that. So if you're starting to feel a lack of motivation, if you're feeling done with certain things, then this episode has some tips to help you. I'm going to discuss 3 ways to know if it is quitting time or it's the tipping point. So let's dive in. So patience. We're often taught that we need to be patient. In order to receive the results that we want in our lives, we need to be persistent and consistent. And I will say that when you are patient, persistent, and consistent, that you will often receive results in dividends, like exponential results, right? So sometimes you do something and it doesn't happen right away. An easy example would be exercise. So if you do one workout, you may feel more energetic, you may sleep better that night, but that result is not long lasting, right? So in order to receive long-term results, you need to be consistently exercising, okay? And that's when you're going to start to see the long-term results. Maybe your body shape changes a little bit. Maybe some other things happen with your energy levels. Maybe your cholesterol goes down, right? There's lots of benefits to exercise. Now, there are times, I'm sure, that you have felt a lack of motivation, like a lack of motivation to exercise, a lack of motivation to do anything that has to do with physical activity. And when you reach those points, it's like a choice point, right? So can you or do you continue to exercise? Or do you quit? Or you could choose a third option, which is to take a temporary break, which I'll also talk about. Now, exercise is an easy one because there is so much data. We may have received physical feedback from actually performing exercise. And so that we can reignite motivation by reminding ourselves of those results and even maybe seeing pictures of ourselves past when we were consistently exercise. There's lots of ways, right, to remotivate. What I'm talking about today is other actions that you take where you may not see those consistent results. And there's not necessarily the external positive feedback, okay, so that you can make a decision that you will continue or you will quit. So, what are some things like that? Maybe it's your current job. Maybe it's your business. Maybe it's a group that you're part of. Maybe it's a friendship. Maybe it's another relationship. Those are the things that I'm referring to that are more complicated, and it can be more difficult to make a decision of whether you should quit or keep going. So these things can sometimes take a while to see the results, right? So I'm going to use the example of a career, business, work. So what is something that you can use? You can apply these principles, these strategies that I'm going to teach you. Think of something, bring that into your mind's eye right now so that you can apply it right away while I'm talking, okay? Take a step back and look at this thing. And in this case, we're talking about career as an example. How do you feel in this career? Do you see yourself as truly being persistent? And be honest with yourself, right? Are you being persistent? Is this something that you are taking consistent action with? the reality is if you give up too soon, you may miss your tipping point. So according to Malcolm Gladwell, the tipping point is that magic moment when an idea, trend, or social behavior crosses a threshold, tips and spreads like wildfire. In fact, he's written a book about this phenomenon he calls the tipping point. So in order to reach the tipping point, you do need to take that consistent action. And there are times where it's time to quit, okay? So I am going to talk about that. The first step in knowing if it is quitting time or the tipping point is to take a step back. So, they say that when you're in the middle of a situation, it's really hard to determine what the next step is, right? And so if you've ever had the experience when you step away from a project or you step away from a task or from a problem and then you come back to it and the answer seems really clear, or when you're out running errands or going for a walk or even in the shower, the answer comes to you. So it's like when you are not actually actively forcing your brain to come up with a solution, you're able to step away from being within it and you're able to see it from a different perspective. So it changes your point of view. And so the first thing to do is to really step away from the situation. So if it's a career, maybe you have to take a vacation day or a vacation week, right? And taking that vacation can give you some perspective about the gifts about your career or work or business. And what are the things that are in your situation that are challenging and unfulfilling, right? And so you can really be honest with yourself, which is very difficult when you're in the busyness of it, when you're in the process of actually doing and fulfilling your goals and taking steps all the time, okay? And so, then you can ask yourself questions like, are you holding on to this because you're afraid to let go? Are you holding on to this because you don't know what's next? And that's a thing I hear a lot about in careers, right? They're like, well, I am in this career and I don't know what to do next, so I'm just going to stay here. Now, there may be some financial reasons that you need to stay in a job or career. And so that needs to be also clear, right? So if you decide when you're taking a step back that you really don't want to do this anymore, there's lots of reasons, right? First, I would recommend you bring in a third party as a way to step back, right? As a way to see it from a different perspective. Oftentimes, friends and family have biases. So I always say, if you can speak to a therapist or a coach and you can receive that perspective, that is really valuable, right? And so one of the things I offer is a clarity session, right? And so sometimes I have clarity sessions oftentimes, and the client receives so much from that clarity session already and decide, they need further work now to figure out their next career, or the clarity session's all they needed, right? So if that's something you need support with, taking a step back from your situation, then I'm going to recommend, there will be a link in the show notes to schedule that with me. Okay. And if it's not with me, if it's someone else, right? A third party that has no bias, which is difficult when you have another type of relationship with them. Okay. So really being clear, are you afraid? Are you not stepping back because you don't know what the next step is? And on the other side of that is, do you just need a break? Right? Are you just feeling a little burnt out? Are you just feeling exhausted and tired? I've been hearing from a lot of people that, working from home, right? That a lot of us have been doing has been more work, right? And there's been this lack of separation between the home life and the work life. And that can create exhaustion, right? Not having that mental, emotional, even energetic separation from work and home life. So when you step back and step away from it, you can have yourself these honest questions, right? And looking at it from a different perspective versus when you're, delving deep into what is happening. Okay. And the other thing to ask yourself is, are you just getting tired of not seeing the external results? So if that's in a business, maybe your income's not where you want, right? Maybe you don't have enough customers, clients, patients, whatever your business is. Or if it's in a corporate job or a career, maybe you're not getting the validation. Maybe you're not getting the income you want. Maybe you're not getting the raises. Maybe your bosses, superior, supervisors don't see you and don't acknowledge you And that feels like the reason that you want to step back, right? So really stepping back, because you can imagine all those things have different things that you can do to work with that, right? Oftentimes we'll just say, I'm done with this, and you'll just quit. And sometimes it's not about quitting, right? Sometimes it's like, well, I need to do this. Maybe I need to ask for some validation. Maybe I need to look and ask and say, I want to be the best I can. I want to get a promotion. What can I do to be able to receive that? What do I need to do for that, right? I am interested in working more with people. How can I do that, right? So these are all things that you can do. And, you can use all the things you have, use your current career, and even improve how you are and what you're doing. And then if it's your business, then you can look and see, what can I do differently? Have I been doing this consistently? How have I been showing up, right? Energetically when I'm taking action, which is a whole other thing, right? And then you can make decisions, right? So another thing, that's tip number 1, okay? Tip number 2 is write it down, okay? This is kind of similar to taking a step back, but maybe you can take a break. Maybe you cannot take a day or a week off, and you're in the scenario where you need to make decisions quickly. And so, or you need some more time, right? On the flip side, maybe a week off isn't enough time. So in that case, the second tip of writing it down, okay? So re-examine the situation and write down your thoughts. When you're journaling and when you're writing things down, it uses different parts of your brain, right, than the spiral thinking. It also forces you to examine things from different angles and a different perspective. I'm thinking you're hearing a pattern here about the perspective shifts, right? So when you take a time to write down what the scenario is, some insights might come. You may need to use some other processes, right? Maybe you need to write a list of all the things that you receive from your current career or business, right? You also need to write down the progress that you've made and all the things you have done. Because this is the thing, our brain loves to focus on what we haven't done yet, what we have left to accomplish, and forgets all that we've already done. Right? So when you actually sit down and write and acknowledge what you've done, you may shift how you feel about it. And that might even be all you need to help with your lack of motivation or feeling burnt out, right? And so if that's the case, then you can add that kind of practice of keeping track of all the things you have done on a regular basis. Maybe you do it daily, maybe you do it weekly, whatever you can do to really connect with all that you have done. Just so you are not going to what your brain defaults to, which is what you haven't done yet. Okay? So step number 1, take a step back, really look at the situation, take a break if you need to. That way you can ask yourself some questions. Number 2 can be used concurrently with number 1, or you can use it when you can take a break, right? So that is about writing and journaling. There are so many processes that you can use to help you journal as well. One of them, like I said, is just writing a list of what are the things you have done. One could be completely just dumping out everything in your brain onto a piece of paper, all that you're feeling, right? And then that can help reduce the spiraling thoughts, and you can look at things from a different perspective. So number 3 is to take some action and prioritize it based on what you saw. So let me be clear. If what you're seeing after writing things down is, you know what, this situation that I'm in right now, I really haven't done much, or the things I've done, I really don't want to continue doing, or I'm just burnt out from this. This does not feel fulfilling anymore. Even after you take a break, you are completely unmotivated, you don't have energy, then it may be time to consider quitting, okay? On the other hand, once you take a step back, you look at all that you've done, you realize that you're on your path and that you're really just feeling a lack of motivation because you're not getting the results that you would like, then that's a different situation, right? And if that's the case, then it is time for you to take action, okay? So this could be internal or external action, right? So one of the things I recommended earlier was to, if you're motivated by looking at what you have accomplished, keep a practice of writing what you've accomplished. right? Review it. Maybe now that maybe you have a business and you've been working on marketing and doing things and you're just like, nothing's working, right? And so when you wrote down things and you took a perspective, you're like, yes, I still am passionate about this business. I still want to continue doing this, but I need to do some things differently. There, now you know what you can focus on, right? Instead of deciding I'm just done. Well, you're actually not done. You're done with taking action on marketing where you're not receiving the results that you need. You're not done with your business, right? So then it's not about quitting. It's about checking in and taking different action. Okay. And so you can keep this perspective and prioritize action based on what comes through this introspection that you're taking, through the stepping back, right? You can brainstorm new ideas. Again, you can work with someone, a third party, to help you come up with new strategies. If you've decided that you're done, well, then creating a plan for yourself, right? So a lot of times people will say, I'm done with my job, I'm quitting. And then they haven't put in some financial stability for themselves, right? So then they're stressed. They come to points where they would not like to be, right? Now, on the other hand, if you're in a place where your health is being impacted and you know you need to leave something, then you do it, right? And you figure it out and receive the support. But if you're not in that place and you can plan, why not? Why not plan? Create that plan of like, when are you going to leave? When are you going to need to do? How much money do you need to save, right? And what can you do differently? How can I reignite motivation? Okay, and so that's the prioritizing the action piece. Another thing to do for yourself, which I see people not doing, is celebrating what you've done. So even if you decide to quit something, acknowledge yourself for taking a chance, for doing whatever it was that you did. If it's a career change or it's a business change, or even if you decide that a relationship is no longer serving you, that doesn't mean that you're leaving the relationship and it's just this thing that is horrible and you don't want anything to do with it. It could be that you've received what you need to from that relationship and they've received what they need to from you. And it's just time to move on. It doesn't mean that it was bad, right? Take the lessons, take what you've learned, grow as a person and move forward. So, is it quitting time or is it a tipping point? If you need help with this, I'd be happy to speak with you. And, once you've kind of taken these steps, allow yourself time. We can be impatient. We can say, I need to do this and make this change now. But really giving yourself that time, you may be on the verge of a tipping point. Okay? So in the meantime, take good care and I'll be back again soon. Thank you for joining us for the Enlightened Heart podcast, where we focus on issues that are relevant to support highly sensitive people and empaths to thrive in this world instead of just surviving. I created this podcast to support people like you and me. So if you are called, please take a moment to write a review because you are truly appreciated as a listener, and I would love to be able to share this knowledge with others. Your review is like an invitation for others to join you. Until next time, take good care. Bye.